You're going to stop or start?
Start.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So just, I mean, we don't have to I'll edit this quite a lot, probably.
Yeah. I was going
I
to
might
ask
not
if
bother,
it's
to be honest.
live or what, or just a podcast that you're recording and then putting somewhere.
I honestly don't know what this is.
Obviously onto all the billboards in London, all that sort of thing.
I don't really entirely know what this is. I think it's mostly I'm bored. There are a couple of things I had thought of to actually talk about though, and I've written some notes.
I remember you saying about bullet points. I mean, there's, to be fair, if we're working on current events, there's quite a lot to unpack.
Well, that's it.
Last week.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking I'd quite like to do.
Everyone doesn't already know about it, of course, but you know.
Right, but that's the thing. I was sort of thinking I'd like to do a sort of news thing where you and I drink and just chat about stuff that's happened. But this is just the stupidest week to start it because there's so fucking much.
I don't know. It's a good week. But if we ever do any other podcasts, you know, if we're not immediately arrested after this for how dreadful it is, then they'll probably seem quite lacking actually after this one. A little bit sort of barren. Well, I don't know actually. I mean, there's a bit of 2020 left, so
that is, Jesus Christ, that's depressingly true. And Trump's still going to be president for the first 20 days of January anyway. But there is one more Zoom background that I prepared.
Okay.
Regarding the news, because I kind of want to talk about this quite a lot. I need to move to the side a bit so you can see it properly. And I've
got a feeling I know what this is going to be. Oh, there it is.
It's
exactly what I was expecting, because this really is the this is perhaps the golden hour of Trump's presidency, in my opinion.
The absolute depth, isn't it, or pinnacle, or
what it all leads up to, or sorry, it all leads down to, is pretty much.
I need to drink more before I talk about this.
Oh,
what are you drinking? You're the rum.
Sorry?
What are you drinking?
Oh, rum. It's Pull the Pin, it's called.
Nice.
It's Devon rum. I found it in a tiny little shop in the village in the middle of nowhere. I thought, I probably won't buy much whilst in Devon, just, you know, the essentials to subsist on whilst I'm there. And of course, came back with rum. So, you know,
it's nice that you managed to get out before the second sort of lockdown here. Anyway,
Oh, yeah. I was actually quite concerned at the time because we have COVID testing every Wednesday. So that basically tells us by Saturday or Friday night whether we've got COVID or not. Of course, I've not had it since I had the virus, you know, near the beginning of this. And probably won't get it based on some of the things I've read. But obviously we're being tested anyway because we work in the hospital, so we need to know. And, I was mildly terrified that I would come back with the positive result just as I'm on my way to Devon in my mum's car with her, which would be probably the worst place on the planet, actually, for me to be.
In your mum's car?
I don't have... Well, if it turns out I had COVID, yes, because my mum really is the one person I would want to protect from it. It's not that she's especially vulnerable, but she's, you know, in her 60s, and I don't have really any close family or relations that are, you know, in the danger zone, as it were. So my mum is kind of closest to that. So, you know, we're sort of trying to keep her away from it, and that would be the number one worst place for me to be when hearing that actually you're positive. Be a very negative moment.
Yes.
I was quite worried that would happen. I wasn't so much concerned about having the virus. It was just more the situation, because it would be a case of having to turn around immediately and come home before even getting to Devon.
Well, I understand you did have a pretty brutal case of it, didn't you? You got COVID.
Sorry, what?
You got a pretty brutal case of COVID, though, didn't you? The first time. I wouldn't
say it was a brutal case.
Well, no, you weren't hospitalised.
Among the more mild cases, I think. It was as such that I would have gone to work with those symptoms had it not been COVID.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have stopped me going to work. It wasn't like flu or something that keeps you in bed, against your will for 2 weeks. I know that some people have COVID like that.
Yeah.
And obviously even that is mild compared to how it can be.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean people dying either. People obviously are having what they call long COVID now, where they're having serious symptoms for months afterwards.
Yeah. Well,
really, I've been lucky.
My friend Gav, who I don't think you've met, he was hospitalized with it in.
Really?
Yeah, it was before the first lockdown. It was December or January, really early, before we really understood that there was a pandemic going on. And
I'm not sure when did it actually reach our country? I mean, obviously there's no way to know for absolute
nobody
sure.
knows. No, nobody knows for sure. It was pretty early on. The January, I think, is the theory, but it may have been earlier than that.
There are people who theorise that they had it sort of, at the end of last year and things, but I'm a bit skeptical. It is possible, but I think that we would have heard about it by then because it travels so fast. They would have noticed something up in the hospitals. There would have been a massive influx of people coming in, and we didn't really see that until we knew about it.
Yeah, I mean there was apparently quite a big influx, but it wasn't like
you always have it around that time because obviously you've got other seasonal illnesses. But, I was ill after Whitby for the first time, getting a Whitby flu type thing, and I was a lot more ill with that than I was with COVID. But obviously it's a different situation because that was just a case of, well, I feel dreadful, I'll have a couple of days off work, but I'll be fine. With COVID, whilst I didn't feel especially horrendous, it was not knowing if I would get better, which was the worst bit, because you hear of people getting a bit better and then they just drop off a cliff and die. And so you're there sort of thinking, oh, I feel a bit better today. Am I going to die? Is that what that means? And it does something. It sort of gives you a bit of a black cloud over your head.
You don't say.
It's slight melancholy happening when you've got COVID that doesn't seem to follow you around with normal illnesses. Because obviously, if you consider this was right at the beginning of things, what was it? It must have been April or May. So it was near the beginning of things. So we didn't know a lot about it, and it was slightly concerning. I didn't feel like I would die, but I didn't know if I was either. So, when you start getting a slightly tight chest and that, you have to phone 111. You sort of think, oh dear, this is not. I haven't had to do this before. But I'm still here. So, cheers to that.
Better. Yeah, that's right. We our neighbours have COVID now. Right now.
They have. Did you say?
They have currently got COVID. Our neighbours, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Have you made sure all the holes in the wall are plugged up?
Oh yes. We'll
five holes and
build some sort of barricade, a massive plastic sheet between the two houses or something. Yeah, just shrink that. Huh?
Just a huge sheet of lead and then some armed guards, just in case they come through the wall for any reason.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good start. I think a good start to make sure it burn anything that comes out of the house as well, or just the house.
Does that include the neighbours?
Yeah,
because of course they're not supposed to. So
I mean, they're pretty loud and annoying. So yeah, sure.
Have they been loud and annoying since having COVID, or is that how you know? Maybe that's how you found out.
Actually, I'm a little. They're all students, the neighbours, so they're probably.
Oh, I suppose neighbours.
Yeah, no. If it was the Christ, no. If it was the other neighbours who are both elderly, that would be less funny.
Probably would have gone very quiet in that household. Not wanting to be too dark here. But yeah, to be honest, I think the most surprising thing about your neighbours who have got it is that they didn't get it earlier, because they're students, and it seems to be weirdly attracted to students.
Well, it's almost like loads and loads of people have moved from lots of different parts of the country into a packed environment where they aren't wearing masks, and yeah,
weird that.
Really, yeah. Although, mind you, there have been a couple of really stupid COVID-ish incidents in Bristol. Yeah, we've had, not just today, We had what was it called? Oh, and today we had a lovely speech from Piers Corbyn.
Good. That must have been not at all rambling and incoherent.
Well, he got arrested, which is nice.
Sense.
Yeah. He's just like, I mean,
he's kind of like the nail in Jeremy Corbyn's coffin, isn't he? Really.
It sort of feels like it. Imagine being Jeremy Corbyn and being like,
I'd rather not at the moment.
Really famous, and then having
Yeah, I feel so lucky that I had the family I do and not him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any of my family believe that, I don't know, chemtrails are giving us all cancer deliberately, or fluoride secretly a mind control device, or whatever bollocks Piers Corbyn comes out with next.
I mean, it's almost exciting to sort of brace ourselves for whatever it might be next, but at the same time, it's
exhausting.
It's a process as well, isn't it? Really, it's just when you think flat Earth, when you think that that's perhaps the worst it gets, you get shortly reminded that is actually not as bad as it gets when certainly.
It's not, is it? At least the flat earthers are admirably bonkers. They're kind of fun in a stupid and embarrassing way, but
they're not abjectly dangerous as such. And the other thing is that they at least are subscribing to something that was genuine belief.
No, there was that one guy who built a homemade rocket and died, who was a flat earther a little while back.
That's fine though, because that's not a danger. Well, I suppose it could have been a danger to other people, but generally,
when you're building something that involves explosives to try and prove the Earth is flat,
usually that would be done in a large space where there are a few people, and I can't imagine anyone that knows about it taking place would want to be present anyway, apart from maybe other flat earth. And so in a way that, I suppose, sorts out several problems at once if it all goes awry. But not that I condone the demise of flat earthers as such, because they provide us with such entertainment, don't they? But if it's going to happen, then it's going to happen, isn't it? It's
I don't know. I mean, yes, but I don't know. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted with conspiracy theories. I'm so tired of hearing.
That's a good way to put it. Actually, that is, I think, how a lot of people are starting to feel. At first, it's quirky, isn't it? Someone comes out with this thing, you think, what an idiot! Like, imagine thinking that, and then 10 people start saying it, and then there's a rally, and then just a cult around it, and then I don't know, presidents pop up who believe these things as well, and that's all. And then you start to think, actually, hold on, this isn't really charming anymore, is it? It's
no. And then 10 minutes later, they all turn out to be Nazis.
That's the other
every
thing,
time.
The other thing, there always seems to be this sort of this little link there somewhere where they end up being dreadful racist bigots.
Every time.
Because that's the thing that I've noticed. Not that it's something that I shouldn't have expected, but every time they're always the same people.
Yep.
They're all the same type of people. And despite the fact that at these rallies, they are literally ram-packed with thousands of people who all have different theories on what the hell is going on. It's like the one thing that unites them is that they're all dreadful, and they're all willing to really cling to that, at least. Or the one person that unites them is David Icke, who's perhaps the worst. If we're not talking about Piers Corbyn, obviously, I think that
he is the worst. He is the worst because David Icke is.
But going back to what you were saying, essentially, David Icke is a Cenobite.
David Icke is a Cenobite. Yeah, well, that's my new theory that I'm going to start making videos about. It's perfect. It'll be a perfect foil to David Icke if we just assume that he's literally a demon from the realm of infinite pleasure and pain, or wherever it is the Cenobites are supposed to be from.
There is one thing though I'd like to get off my chest, and that's that I don't particularly want to see David Icke wearing latex.
That's
with
fine.
his nose exposed.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I'm with you there.
I don't mind seeing nails in his head or something, but you know.
I mean, no, he's no. I don't think anyone wants that. I hope.
No. I think it's almost a bit of disrespect to the Cenobites as well to sort of name him amongst their ranks.
Disrespect to the Cenobites and the entire BDSM community, let's be honest. It's
true, yeah. They are essentially the leaders of that gang.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, you know. So, yeah, David Icke, I need more alcohol right now.
Sort of the founders of Torture Garden.
Yeah. So, I've bought myself a much stiffer drink. Well, at some point, we're going to need to talk about this.
I was going to say, this particular situation that you just aired briefly there, it's unique in that it needs to be the first thing we talk about, but kind of also needs to be the last, because you like to say best till last generally.
I think really, so. It's
the elephant in the room, really, isn't it? Or, you know, the elephant between the dildo shop and the crematorium, anyway.
Well, yeah. I'm running up to it. Okay, I tell you what, we could talk about the US election, because that was batshit. That was,
yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that happened and is still happening, and although isn't really, because it is decided.
It's finished. It's done. You know, yeah.
But for a certain cult, it's you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so correct, right? It's like, do you know how the electoral
could argue I spelled, you know, I pronounced cult wrong there, but you know, we could chuck an N instead of the L.
Do you know how the electoral college works in the US?
I know how it works to a degree. I understand that there are certain numbers of the electrical college. Oh wow, okay, maybe less.
More.
The electrical college. Well, that would certainly be an interesting change of events. The electoral college, not the electrical. I understand there are a certain number of electoral college, presumably candidates. I don't know, in each state.
Right.
Is that how it works?
So,
because there's a certain number, isn't there, to each state, and obviously the states with the higher number are the most important ones, such as Pennsylvania, you know, etc. I don't understand exactly how that works. So.
Yeah, it's a whole thing where each state gets a certain amount of electors that they send. So they vote. Say California has 55 electors. So California votes for. It always votes Democrat. It voted Democrat this time. California's Democrat stronghold. California votes Democrat. 55 electors. Those 55 electors all go, and they are the 55 Democrats. Different states have different numbers of electors, and you need to have more than half to be president. It's not a great system, and it was mostly set up. No, but this one's even worse, because first of all, right, so one of the things you've got to realize is Hillary Clinton, okay, she got 3 million fewer votes than Trump. No, 3 million more votes than Trump. She got 3 million more votes than Trump in total.
She won the popular vote, didn't she?
She won the popular vote by 3 million.
Nothing if the electoral college don't vote for her.
Well, Donald Trump won 306 electoral college votes, despite losing the popular vote by 3 million. Joe Biden won 306 electoral college votes, despite winning the popular vote by 7 million.
Well, he won the highest amount of any president
ever. Yeah, and he still sort of only got as many votes as Trump, despite a much bigger difference in popular. It's so stupid. The whole thing was set anyway. The whole thing was set up in order specifically to sort of make sure it's set up this way to make sure that the southern states were a bit stronger and wouldn't be as pissed off after this fucking civil war they had. So yeah,
the Confederates.
It's specifically designed to make racists happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very
Trump down,
American.
especially
Very
right now.
American. Huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny, really, when you look at Biden and Trump. They both represent America, just in very different ways. You know, Trump is very much all American, isn't he? But in all the ways that other nations have always hated America, and obviously his followers, they literally represent everything about America that people despise in other countries. You know, the sort of the brash, everything,
Insular,
basically.
racist.
Yeah. Just everything. When you sort of think of America, you know, that whole thing. It's all there. I mean, just the way I've had to adjust myself to deal with the way that they've been acting over the you know, with this election. I expected foul play. Everyone expected foul play from their side, but when it came, it was like, wow, okay, I was absolutely furious reading about these people going around in these sort of Hummers or whatever they're driving, because it always is, isn't it? And you know, trucks of some description, and trying to sort of block, you know, Biden's campaign bus and all that kind of thing, and literally ramming people off the road, or trying to ram people off the road.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
What the fuck? I was livid. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yes, I know they're going to do dreadful things. They're going to try and cheat, but what fresh nonsense is this? Things are never simple. Nothing is ever black and white. And unfortunately, people try to fight with each other in a way that they think it is. You know, and it doesn't work.
Some things are black and white.
Oh, some things, yeah.
Most things are not. Some things are.
Racism, very much. I mean,
Donald Trump.
There's an irony in calling it black
and white. He's a bad person. Yeah. He's an evil man.
Yeah.
With an evil face, a very orange evil face. So orange, it confuses me.
Well, he's a tangerine nightmare, isn't he? Really?
And a terrible voice.
Satsuma Menace, if you will.
Who looks at that and feels the sense of charisma emanating from it?
No, he's got a sort of his head is the sort of same shape as a dustbin. Interestingly, mainly, and that works so well purely because it's filled with garbage.
It's kind of, yeah. I saw him make this baffling speech during the election night where he was talking about how he'd secretly won and everyone was wrong. And
yes, of course. Of course he did.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. I was going to touch on this. Oh no, have I broken it?
No, hang on a minute.
Doesn't matter. I'm still running this. That's the main thing.
What were you going to touch on, man?
I was going to touch upon the you were saying about it isn't black and white as to whether Trump is a dreadful person.
No,
no, it isn't to us, those of us who know better. But to Trump and his followers, it's, or rather, we were saying it is. Sorry, it is black and white. To him and his followers, it isn't black and white. He doesn't think he's bad. Hitler didn't think he was bad. You know,
nobody thinks they're the bad.
Thought he was doing the right thing as well for him.
Actually, you know what? Again, some people think they're the bad guy, but all of them murdered each other in Norway in the black metal scene in the 90s.
Well, that's a little different. That's kind of attempting your hardest to be the bad guy. When actually, underneath it, you probably weren't actually that dreadful until you went out of your way to do dreadful things to try and prove a point that you didn't need to prove.
Varg Vikernes was a piece of shit and always has been and is.
Oh, Varg Vikernes, good old Count Grishnak.
That dick. He was always a prick. There's no way.
They were all dickheads. And the thing is, did you ever read Lords of Chaos, the book?
No, I haven't. I
highly recommend it. It's
excellent.
Very, very good. And it absolutely gives you a huge insight into the personalities of these sort of people. And you read it and you think, I've known these people before. They were absolutely not unique to Norway.
No, they were embarrassing.
Even the black metal scene.
They were the people who sat at the back of the pub bitching about each other and lying about things they'd done. That's who they feel like to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to edit quite a bit of stuff out just for the sake of like not ending up with some massive row on a Facebook comments or something. Also, I'm going to disable all, if anything of this goes on YouTube, I'm disabling all comments. Fuck YouTube commenters. They are the worst people in the world. All of them. Now, I'd better actually remember to disable YouTube comments because I'm almost certainly going to leave this bit of the video in.
That's not to say that your hair looks like a dead fox, of course. But it's comb over time.
What is this?
Time to rearrange it as a trump.
Look, this is we've got to dive in. I'm sorry, but
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it was one of the most entertaining pieces of not television history, but internet television history ever. Probably.
I'm just going to have to tell it like a story because it is a story that needs to be told.
Yeah.
Okay, so it begins. It begins with Rudy Giuliani, the recently catfished by Borat lawyer, representing the President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, needing to hold a press conference to declare there was massive fraud, even though there wasn't, because they're just lying shits. They're all just lying shits.
Yeah.
They clearly wanted to do this press conference at the Four Seasons Hotel in Philadelphia. It's a huge, opulent hotel. It just looks magnificent. Now, here's the thing. There is a Trump hotel in Philadelphia that is apparently quite nice, but apparently in the past, when they've tried to hold events there, because Trump as president was incredibly unpopular, there would be huge crowds of angry Philadelphians screaming abuse all the way through it. That's why they needed another venue. Presumably the Four Seasons Hotel.
But apparently not.
What clearly happened?
So it turns out.
Someone Googled Four Seasons Philadelphia, phoned the first number that came up, gave them $1 million, however much, however much they pay for this. Oh, absolutely. But it wasn't the Four Seasons Hotel.
No.
It was Four Seasons Total Landscaping. In the UK, we would call it a garden centre.
We would.
And it was in the car park.
I mean, it's like I don't know if it's just a one-off garden centre in America. It probably is. So it's probably not even equivalent to a Haskins. And Boris Johnson holding a press conference at a Haskins would be bad enough, wouldn't it? I mean, to be fair, Boris Johnson holding a press conference is bad enough.
Oh, he holds press conferences all sorts of stupid places. That's part of what he thinks is his appeal.
Didn't you hold one in a press conference? Oh no, that wasn't really. It was a press conference, was it?
This press conference with this screeching more.
There he is.
This idiot, him, Rudolph Giuliani.
The man that calls himself Rudy.
He does. That press conference, that car park is between a sex shop and a crematorium.
It is.
I was following
a hard place, but for racists.
Yeah, there was a local journalist in Philadelphia tweeting about it because he couldn't get into the press conference. So he went and interviewed the guy who owned the sex shop. And the guy who owned the sex shop said he didn't know why he was giving the press conference, and it was obvious that Trump had lost. So
I mean, in a way, Trump, he kind of won something that day. But not really an award you'd want to win.
No.
No. Definitely something unique, though. Something no one else really has ever quite managed. Certainly no US president has ever quite managed. And probably never will, unless he gets a second term by running again in 2024.
Here's the thing.
But
here's the thing that makes it even worse better, is that during the press conference, about 10 minutes in, all the American news networks called the election, including Fox, and said that Biden had won. And
yes.
Rudy Giuliani was told during the press conference, in the car park of the garden centre between the sex shop and the crematorium,
both of which had not moved during the press conference. They were still there, flanking the press conference in a way that only a crematorium and a sex shops could.
I mean, look, I can't think of a better place for Trump's presidency to end, to be honest. It's no.
I desperately hope this is kind of the, the real culmination of his presidency in any real sense. I just for the fact of what happened, we can't really allow anything bigger to happen now. That needs to be where American fascism kind of meets its maker, in a way. It obviously won't, because it's not going away, but certainly Trump's presidency, as it is, I would like to think that is really where it all ended. And
it would be nice. I think
it would be fitting, wouldn't it?
I think there's a lot of fear going around that he's going to try and stage a coup and stay in power. And I don't think he is, firstly, because I think what he's much more likely to do is go on a protracted sulk. He won't do any governing. He won't go back to the White House. He's not going to do anything, really. He's just going to sulk like a massive baby.
His followers, certainly people like the Proud Boys.
Those dicks.
People like them.
They're falling to pieces. Honestly,
they're certainly going to want to encourage a coup, and they would certainly want to be part of it. But I feel almost like Trump is going to kind of just do nothing. He's going to kind of not govern until he's hoisted out of office. He'll probably there's a theory that he'll just bugger off back to Florida.
Mar-a-Lago, his golf resort. Yeah.
He apparently he likes golf. That seems to be a thing that he does now.
Oh, really?
More than ever. Since this loss.
Who would have thought?
Perhaps it's perhaps one of the only ways he can win something now. Maybe winning a game of golf against himself. I don't know, whoever it is he plays. But I can't help, because he had when he was having that game, that now famous game of golf, whilst the election was kind of being called, he had some photos taken with a bride and groom. I think there was sort of a wedding thing happening, wasn't there, on the golf course or near the golf course? Yeah, you must have heard about that. They had a photo taken with him that day whilst things were being called. So I can only presume they didn't know that he was currently being a massive loser.
He lives in a world of his own.
Having their photo taken on their wedding day with the biggest loser on the planet at that point.
I mean, to be honest, if I was, I might. Right,
wow.
Trump is a loathsome piece of shit, but that would be one fuck of a thing to put in a family photo album. That would be one hell of a photo.
Imagine the tacky borders you could put around that, or the tacky backgrounds you could add to it digitally.
Well, hang on a minute. This is what you'd add. That is what you would add to the.
I don't know. I mean, I think that the one with the press conference would work quite well.
I mean, yeah.
There.
Yeah,
place all of them at the press conference site. Let's. Where was it again? It was. It was a total landscaping place between. Let's try and remember. It was a death house and a dildo shop.
Paradise Island.
They were the ones.
Oh,
Yeah, excellent.
it was no,
A place that sells butt plugs. Yeah,
yeah,
loads
pretty
of
much.
them.
It's
Um,
it's yeah. I think it's hard to describe how kind of perfectly awful it is.
it's almost tailor-made, really, wasn't it?
There's no, yeah. I mean, if future generations won't understand how funny it is, and that's the thing that really is hard to put into words, hard to describe just how it's his whole administration. A crematorium, a sex shop, a fucking down at heel garden centre car park, and a nutbag lunatic bastard who was catfished by Borat less than a week ago. giving a shambolic press conference, and in the middle of it, he's told he's lost. It's
Honestly, in 10 years' time, or maybe not even that, I can't wait to read literature that talks about this, watch documentaries that talk about this. This is up there with really the toilet roll panic buying of COVID.
lovely. Well, I'm leaving that in.
That's I'm here all night.
Quality. So yeah. So yeah, that was the press conference. The presidency itself, it's been 4 years.
Yeah. He's done plenty of damage in that time, although admittedly not as much as a lot of people suspected he would.
Yeah, but that's more out of incompetence than anything else.
Well, I think that's certainly true, and perhaps just not being able to push certain things through as quickly as he would like to, or at all. Certainly another 4 years, though, would have enabled that to happen.
America wouldn't have been there. There would have been no. He would be president for life. The end of another 4 years, the amount of damage he's done already. Yeah,
he would sort of finish the job, really, wouldn't he? And also prevent or make it very difficult for anyone superseding him to actually roll things back properly. Or it's going to be difficult anyway for Biden. But luckily, Biden has been doing this for, is it like 47 years or something?
So long.
So he's probably the best person for the job, really. He knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to being in the presidential office. It does need someone like him to roll this shit back that Trump's been put in, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is that if Trump had got another 4 years, the problem with his presidency, or anyone that heads up the US, is that it's not just America's problem. You know, it would, and certainly at the moment, very much would be our problem because of Brexit, above anything else. And the fact that we would have to rely on them for trade deals. I know that there's going to be issues anyway because of Biden being president, and not directly because of Biden being president, but because of the government we've got in relation to that. Because they're a bunch of incompetent wankers. So, you know, obviously that causes problems. Though I think that certainly his influence will be a good thing when it comes to trade deals and the what's it called, the Good Friday Agreement.
I am pretty sure that Biden winning is the reason that Dominic Cummings was out on his arse yesterday.
I wouldn't be too surprised, because of course that's also something else to address, isn't it? Seeing as that's recently happened.
Yeah. I have no idea what was actually going on there. Not really. I'm really.
We will find out, I'm sure, but
I'm not.
I mean, maybe not, but I'm sure that we can. Anything we can come up with probably doesn't quite match the reality of it.
I can't think.
A bit like in the sort of same way that if everyone on the planet was charged with designing a villain, they probably couldn't come up with someone that looks and acts more like one than Dominic Cummings.
I mean, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump obviously is an exception there, but
Dominic Cummings wouldn't look out of place.
They all are, though, aren't they? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the people that haven't yet congratulated Biden on his victory, they're all the usual suspects, aren't they? Certainly, at least Putin, Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro's
one of my least favorite people.
Bolsonaro.
Putin is just, he's been around and he is Putin and will always be Putin and will always be Putin. So, that's problematic. It's what it is. It's that's Russia, and that's what Russia's always been. They are still the Soviet Union, really, aren't they? In all but
the Soviet Union at least pretended to help people.
Sorry?
The Soviet Union pretended to help people. This isn't the Soviet Union anymore. This is just a crime gang in charge of a country, isn't it?
Yeah. But the whole sort of secrecy and pathetic attempts at looking amazing in the world, on the world stage.
He was in charge of the KGB.
But Bolsonaro, I don't know. There's a special place for him in
it's hell
in regards to people that I dislike, because obviously he heads up a country which, for most of that, how can I word this? Because I'm a bit drunk, and so that becomes a problem. The bulk of the Amazon rainforest is in that country, and so really not much more need be said, other than that he apparently doesn't really like the Amazon rainforest very much, according to the sort of shit that he's allowed to happen to it.
Well, I mean,
I understand it's more to do with the agricultural society, but still, we kind of need.
Because he's been so blasé about COVID, caught COVID, still hasn't really done anything to put a stop to COVID running rampant through his country, and has burned down large portions of the Amazon. I've got a feeling Bolsonaro might just be generally philosophically against the concept of breathing.
Well, it's a good theory. It holds up.
It holds up, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
Thing is, I do kind of wonder as well what Biden's win is going to mean for like the global far right. Their figurehead, the guy who kind of enabled them to be as shitty as they were, was Trump. So I'm wondering if the assholes in Poland and that prick Orban in Hungary, I'm wondering if their days are kind of a bit numbered, just because they're going, and Boris Johnson as well. I mean, he's not as far right as Orban. He's not as far right as Orban or as far right as Trump, really. But I'm wondering if, because they're going to very, very quickly look hopelessly outdated and weird, Yeah,
I don't know about Boris Johnson so much. I mean, it obviously goes without saying to anyone that knows me that I loathe the man and everything he stands for and everything his party stands for. But I'm not going to attribute him certain labels that perhaps don't fit him properly, because that would be disingenuous. I'm not saying that you're being disingenuous, because I understand exactly what you mean, where you're coming from. I certainly think, though, had we, in some weird reality, ended up with Nigel Farage as Prime Minister, he would definitely fit the bill a lot more. He would very much be a Trump, a British Trump. But Boris Johnson's kind of his own thing, isn't he? He's very much about himself and also himself. So that's kind of how that goes with him. And once his interests are done, he's out there.
Well, there are rumours with the Cummings sacking that he's planning to pivot to like a, what's the word, ending the culture war, a bit more of a kind of liberal sort of right wing, soft right, socially left, no, socially liberal and economically right wing sort of person. But
there's two ways it could go, because there was talk of him stepping down, and that could pave the way for someone like Priti Patel, which is worse.
I have no doubt that Boris Johnson is fucked. He's gone. He's gone because I think the 1922 committee, the Conservative Party, are going to ditch him because people are getting really pissed off with him. But I think he's gone after Brexit. I think he sees Brexit through the 31st of December. I think maybe a couple of months after that, the 1922 committee sack him and replace him with someone who's less of a prick.
Would that happen, though? That's the thing. Would that happen? Because there's scope for someone like Priti Patel to end up in his position.
It won't be Priti Patel. It won't be Priti Patel. No, it'll be a unifying figure. There'll be a need to bring the country together. So it'll be someone like, I don't know. It'll have to be someone like the Tory party membership so it won't be Rishi Sunak because they don't like him.
No one then. None of the front bench.
No.
Which is good.
No, oh God, no, it won't be anyone
from the front bench. We've ever had probably in history.
Yeah, they are fucking appalling. It'll be someone who's a steady hand. It'll probably be someone that we've almost forgotten exists. You know, it'll be.
Well, I mean, that's
David Davis. No, not David Davis. He's far too radical.
Can we get John Major again? Because he just didn't do anything. He was just grey and did nothing.
I mean, he didn't do anything because his entire party were too busy drunk or dying of strangle wank or, you know.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. As long as we don't need to see the videos
I'm not
of it.
kink shaming the guy. I just it went wrong and he died. I can't remember his name. It was a Tory MP who died because he was choking himself or masturbating in a hotel room. And
well, I mean, that's probably the most personality a Tory's ever had. So, you know, it's kind of almost a shame that it sort of died with him. But, you know, with Boris Johnson, there had to be, because of the way he is and the way the direction he was going, there was always going to have to be a point where he was going to be prime minister. So, you know, we kind of got that out of the way, like it needed to be done. It's a bit like, you know, I don't know, when you're constipated and you need a really big dump, and you know you've got to do it at some point, and it's going to be painful, but you've got to do it. You've got to get that out of the way. And Boris Johnson is that big dump, isn't he? Really? And you know, he had to happen. But luckily, it's almost at the end of that painful era of toiletry, and well, hopefully, and
you're almost there. It is like that, but the thing is, the big dump.
I mean, it's more of a brief shark, really. But
you're hoping that, but it turns out to actually be this kind of forceful, explosive diarrhea that launches you upwards, halfway through the bathroom ceiling, your legs dangling down through the plasterwork, your head in the attic, your arms flailing about, everything just a distressing mess beneath you, but you can't see it. And
no,
all you can think is, fuck, Boris Johnson's the Prime Minister.
I don't even know what to say. It's just...
part of the reason, I don't know what to say either, but part of the reason for that is just I am quite drunk now. I'm quite drunk, and it's probably going to get considerably worse after I down this.
Probably don't down it then. Just have a bit, because you don't want to cut things short too prematurely. This is important debate. This is big talk. Now I'm looking directly at the camera now and at the audience.
All right. You actually, hang on, you're to the side of it. You need to look to your left. That's it. There you go.
There.
Right,
Yes.
that's it. Perfect.
I've
I
been
like to
looking
do
up
this.
there all night. It turns out the camera is actually
Look.
down there.
We can both look at cameras and point at them. See?
I can see the camera now as well. Shit. I've been looking there all night. Fucking hell. What particular alcohols have you imbibed this evening?
Well, I've half a bottle of Prosecco and an awful lot of this bottle of Absolute.
A fine quality vodka, although
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
it's one.
vodka enthusiasts would
I do
agree,
have
but
I do have this, which I'll be drinking shortly. Out of sheer spiteful distaste for my
candy cane. Okay. What is that exactly? Is
gin.
that gin?
It's a gin liqueur.
They're usually gin, aren't they? You know, anything that with
Yeah.
anything interesting in it.
Well, this
Usually
one has
Many the
it's
gin
sort
kind of needs that.
flavoured and has edible glitter flying around in it
Oh dear.
and tastes
Did this have
nice.
did it have anything to do with Ella?
It's hard work. Did it have anything to do with that? Yes, it did have something to do with that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
really, I suppose in that regard, you're at least lucky that the glitter's still inside the bottle.
True.
So if you drink
well
it quickly enough, it will stay inside of you, I guess, until well, you know, so later on, obviously, when you have a fine sparkling piss.
well, quite yes. That's
So, kind of hoping it doesn't work that way.
well, to be honest, after drinking
That does mean a sparkling dump, though, doesn't it? At the very least. So,
you always get very scatological when we've had a few drinks. I'm okay with it, just noticing it. That's another piece of news that we haven't talked about. The vaccine.
yes, the Pfizer vaccine.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
hold on. Okay, there's either fireworks or live munitions. I'm not sure which.
Hang on a minute, I'll just check.
I live near Shirley, so it could be either.
Just having a quick Google. Oh, it's Diwali. It's Diwali.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah. There you go. So we're not under attack, presumably. I'll just double check the BBC.
Well, I mean, all pets are under attack, but that's just the default
well,
when it comes to fireworks.
That'll be fine. Honestly, your dog will have a panic night and then get over it. That's what happens. There's no reports of us being under any kind of attack, so at the moment I'm going to assume we're fine.
To be fair, I mean, I live near Shirley, and they often just have fireworks.
Oh,
I think
nice.
just local oiks.
Yeah.
Just buying them. There's a shop in Shirley that just sells them all year, and don't know if that's healthy, really. It's bad enough just around, you know, the correct time of year, but all year, really, in Shirley. That. It's a bit of a shit idea, isn't it, that one? And so I tend to hear fireworks and sometimes see them from my belfry quite often, which is nice.
Rath, mate, there's a vaccine.
But yeah, the vaccine, 90% efficacy. That's actually higher than the flu vaccine as well.
Considerably.
I think it's 50%, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I had a flu vaccine a couple of weeks ago, actually. It was a different one to usual, though. They have an inactive one this time.
Oh, yeah.
But the reason being, I think, is because some people get some flu-like, very, very mild flu-like symptoms when they have the active vaccine. And of course, if you, at the moment, start displaying any symptoms, then you've kind of got to have 2 weeks off, which I'm a little annoyed that I didn't get. But I didn't actually have any symptoms anyway. But then, of course, that's likely because it was inactive, which I needn't have said, really, because
there's a COVID vaccine. There's a fucking COVID vaccine.
There may be that. Well, there is, but we'll see. I want to discourage people from getting too excited about this because we don't know, for example, when this will roll out. We don't know what sort of roadblocks are going to be put in place by people with money.
None.
Or people that want money.
None, because the lockdown and COVID pandemic is costing everybody money. Everybody hates it. Yeah.
Someone, if anyone's listening, make Jack a Brocade mask, because I haven't got any.
I have no idea if anyone's going to listen to this. And wanted to do something vaguely creative, but it probably is a podcast, or at least at worst it'll be a YouTube video of you and me getting progressively more drunk.